This is your Fast Life Motorcycle channel, and today I'm going to do a quick lesson. I know I talked to you guys about doing videos, the more training videos, the Carlisle's Picks Training Rider Training Series, CPRT, and we wanted to get a little bit more advanced than we've been in the past. So with that in mind, I know cornering is definitely something that we wanted to cover. And I wanted to get things started with just a quick tip. Now the videos in the future are going to be much more detailed than this. I think this will be pretty good, but we're not gonna go a long video. Just straight to the point. So a decreasing radius turn. How do you handle a decreasing radius turn? In short, you are going to need to have 2 or more apexes in the turn. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to illustrate a potential path through this decreasing radius turn, and we're going to see what problems might come up based on the technique that I'm going to use. So, if you just bear with me one moment, let me get my paintbrush out, and we're going to go through the turn. So the decreasing radius turn, as the name suggests, is a turn where the radius becomes tighter, or the turn becomes tighter. So basically you go into the turn and it sort of seduces you into thinking that you can go in much faster than you really can, right? Because the radius in the beginning is not as sharp as it is in the ending. Like if you look at this turn right here, you can see in the beginning of the turn, you can go, this is like a sweeper, right? You can go into this pretty quickly and no issues. Most guys can go in this very fast, no problems at all. This is similar to, like on a racetrack, things are designed to challenge you, right? So they do things to make it more difficult, right? To challenge the riders. On the highway, safety is paramount. So this is the kind of turn you'd see on a highway where the average driver can go through this at very fast speeds and no problem. You don't need a lot of traction and things like that and skill to go through this first piece. Over here, now over here is where we got some problems. So you go into this turn, it's not that bad, and you're like, okay, so you got really fast speeds going, and you can't really see around here, right? You can only see up to here. That's where your vision is going to stop. So everything you're seeing tells you that you're good to go with high speeds. And then as you start to come around here, you're going to start to be able to see through the turn over here, right? Your peripheral vision, you're going to start to see this. And then you're going to see in front of you off the road. Like you're going to see through the turn, meaning for you to continue on this turn, you're going to have to really turn around, right? Here, you're seeing, you know, something that looks pretty safe. Over here, you're like, whoa. So that's one of the challenges with a decreasing radius turn. But how do you maneuver through a decreasing radius turn? You're going to need to use 2 or more apexes. Now, a rider who doesn't have the training, this is what they might try to do. So you see this turn coming up. So let me get my paintbrush out here. So you see this turn coming up, right? And let's say you wanna start on the inside here, right? And you decide to go a little bit out here, and then you're gonna go and do your turn right here. Boom, you lean the bike over, right? And you're going into the turn, everything's fine. But right about here, you're starting to notice there's a problem, right? You can't continue on this vector, right? If you continue in this vector, you're going to end up probably about here. So you're going to run off, right? So an inexperienced rider probably getting very panicked right about now. So they might want to start trying to turn more and more and more and more. And maybe you're getting into the max lean angle, right? And you might freak out, panic. Maybe you just totally freeze and you just run off the road completely, right? Or maybe you exceed your maximum lean angle, you panic and you're like, oh shit, I'm running off the road, and then you try to like do a really, really aggressive turn here, right? But you don't have the traction for it. So you do that, and then you low side or high side, right? And the bike just runs off, right? And that's it, you're done, right? So that's the reason why you need to do 2 or more apexes. And when we say apex, we're talking about like here, right? So this was an attempt to do a single apex. So we went through the turn, and then we did our lean right here, right? And then we start our curve, right? And then we find out that that's not enough. So either we just totally freeze and keep to our single apex and then we run off, or we try to do a poorly planned and placed second apex in a bad position to where you already lean too sharply, right? You didn't have any more lean angles, so you ended up running off. I think you put yourself in a position here where the amount of lean or how sharply you needed to turn wasn't physically possible, right? Because you didn't set yourself up properly. So let's look at a better way to go through this. So let's undo that. I'm sure there's a better way to delete this. I guess what I can do is let's get the eraser out, and let's. Oh man, that's huge! It's massive. That's bigger than my head. Let's get a smaller eraser. Okay, that eraser sucks. Let's get a stronger one. All right. So this is not how we want to do it. This is not how we want to do it. Dun 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 dun. So what we want to do is we want to do 2 or more apexes to the turn. So let's see if we can try a double apex. Let's see if we can try that. So let's get our brush back out. Let's get right into the new. Okay. Anyway, so what we're going to do right here is, 1 second. All right. So the first attempt through the turn was a failure. We crashed. In at least one of those scenarios, in one scenario, we ran off the track. You didn't have to necessarily crash. You might have been able to keep the bike up, run into the grass if you're in a racetrack as opposed to on the street. And you see one of the reasons why you want to, well, you wouldn't really find a turn like this on the street, but if you're on the street, running off probably would have meant crashing, because you probably would run into a railing or something like that. Maybe run across traffic in the other lane or something like that. On the racetrack, you'd have ended up on the grass. Depending on how fast you're going, skill level, maybe you kept it up. But the second attempt, you definitely would have crashed, because if you went in trying to hold that one apex, and then you're leaning tighter and tighter, holding that single apex, then you're like, oh shoot, this is not working. And at that point, you need a massive curvature in terms of you need to make a really, really tight turn, and right away, because you're running out of road fast. You would have definitely lost traction at that point. And I would say more than likely, it depends on what you're doing with throttle. I mean, you could, I would say more than likely, I would expect a potential low side. And again, it depends on throttle. As far as a high side, I'm not sure if that is what would happen in that scenario. But it could, depending on your throttle. And we'll talk about that in future videos in terms of balancing the bike. The main concept being that when you're going through the turn, you want to be on the throttle ever so gently, right? You want to have a little bit of throttle. You want to have a little bit of acceleration to balance the bike. Because if you don't, then what you're going to do is you're going to have more weight on one side of the bike than the other, and that side of the bike can actually end up losing traction, right? We'll talk more about that in future videos, but let's just try to do a double apex. So now I watched your Fast Life motorcycle video, and I know how to go through a turn like this. You just have to do a double apex. Okay, so let's try the double apex. So let's say we decide to come in on the inside, right, like this, right? And then we decide to start curving a little bit and do our first apex here. right? And we already know that this is not enough to go through the entire turn. So we're going through and curving, and we plan to do a second apex here. So we lean the bike again, right? Now, if we decided to do something like this, we're still gonna end up needing to course correct, because as you can see, we're headed for the running off. So we could do a third apex at this point, and then be able to go through the turn, right? So that's a potential trajectory, not the best looking lines going through a turn here, but we actually survived. We could have also taken it to this point, and then we could do another one here, right? And who knows, that could be it. Maybe that's enough. We could just keep going, turning, and on the curvature that we have here, we could actually manage to make the turn without doing another apex. Although it looks like I kind of apexed right here again. So that would be still a double apex. I think it's possible you could do just a double apex on this, but I think more than likely you're gonna end up doing a triple. So here's some that's the basics, right? We're gonna go into more details in future videos, but the points that I want you to understand is that going through a turn, generally speaking, you're not gonna be able to just sort of make one decision in terms of, okay, I'm gonna lean the bike just so much. That's the correct amount of lean. I'm turning just the right amount, and I'm just going to stay on this path, and I'm going to make the turn. Generally speaking, that's not the way it works. Not in the real world. When you're going through a turn, you have bumps, you have change in camber. So the road is leaning one way or the other. The bottom line is you have many inconsistencies or inconsistencies with the road where it's going to affect your turning radius, right? So if you just make one adjustment in the beginning, you go into the turn, you lean a certain amount, you're probably not going to be able to make the turn properly, right? And to be able to make tighter and tighter turns, especially an advanced turn like a decreasing radius turn, you're definitely going to need to be skilled at making course corrections in the turn. Right? It's not just a one-turn thing. Now, we spoke about specific and precise course corrections in terms of doing multiple apexes in the turn, but it's even more complicated than that, because you're not going to be able to typically go through a turn like this and just make 3 adjustments, right? You go into the turn, I lean here, keep curving, lean here, keep curving, lean. No, it's going to be as you're going through the turn, you're going to need to make adjustments to stay on your path. Because let's say you make this turn here, and then because of the inconsistencies in the road, you actually start going a little bit wider than you wanted to. You might want to make a slight tighter turn to get back on your line, or maybe your line is going too tight or something, you need to loosen out. So bottom line is you need to be able to make course corrections in a turn. Right? That's just the normal thing. The other detail to understand is, now, counter steering is a key technique to be able to go through the turn, right? So, and we'll talk more about in detail about that, where you push the handlebars to make the bike sort of fall over and lean, or not fall over, but lean over towards where you want to turn the bike. Now, that's a key skill set in being able to do what we just demonstrated here. You're going to counter steer apex number 1, counter steer apex number 2, counter steer apex number 3. You're counter steering 3 times at least to make this turn. I would say 3 major counter steering events in this turn, but you're going to be counter steering throughout the turn based on where the turn is taking you, where the surface of the road is taking you, right? Just like how you're on the road, generally speaking, we don't just get on the road, line up the wheels, car, bike, whatever it is, right? And then we just keep going. Even if the road appears to be perfectly straight, maybe it is perfectly straight, that's not how we operate, right? You're constantly making course corrections, right? In a car, on a bike, right? You're constantly making course corrections to stay on your line. In a perfect world, with a perfect motorcycle or car, perfect tires, a perfectly flat surface with no wind, right? In a vacuum, you know what I mean? Your steering system is absolutely perfect and precise. Then yes, you could get on the road, line up your wheels, get on a straight trajectory, and then just stay there that way. Don't do anything, and you'll stay on the road. In the real world, that's not how it works. Same thing going straight, even more so going through a turn, right? So you need to be able to counter steer in a turn, not just to make the turn itself, right? So with that being said, one other thing I want to point out is the key element that allows you to be able to do what we describe here is, if you look at this turn, the sharpest lean angles would be at where the apex is, right? Because those are the points where you're going to push your handlebars, make the bike lean over to a certain angle, and then that's going to put you in this curvature where you turn and you're heading this way. But you notice here, this line is relatively straight, right? And this line is relatively straight, right? So what that means is, because of the fact that you're concentrating your maximum lean angles at the apex of the turn, right? That's where you lean the bike, right? That means that you are freeing up lean angle for the future, right? Because you're curving aggressively here, but here, not so much, right? So therefore, you're able to lean the bike aggressively again. Now, in this turn, at this point, you're not really turning that much, so you don't have to have the bike so aggressively leaned over, so you're able to turn again. Now, if you just do a single apex turn, that's where you have a problem, where you lean it aggressively, you stay on that, and then the turn is getting tighter and tighter, so you're leaning more and more and more and more and more and more and more. You're taking away your lean angle, taking more and more of your lean angle. You're leaning the bike further and further over, and then it gets to the point now where that line that you're on is still not enough to continue, but you've already leaned the bike over so much, you can't lean it anymore. That's where you run off the road. That's where you panic. That's where you try to do an impossible turn at this point, where you lean it over to the point where you're scraping, and then that's where you crash, right? So the point is to concentrate your maximum lean angle, maximal turning effort at strategic points throughout the turn, right? So we'll talk more about that in the future videos. And one of the most important things, as usual, is to relax, right? Practice these things in a safe environment, and you want to be relaxed. You don't want to be ham-fisted. You want to be smooth, and you want to be precise. So here is some examples of going through the turn. As you can see, the instinctual line, like I talked about, where we're just like, oh, okay, let's just go through the turn. Okay, here, turn comes up. Let's lean the bike. Lean, 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 lean. Leaning more and more and more and more and more. Turn is getting sharper, so no problem. As the turn gets sharper, I just lean more, right? Lean more and more and more until you can't lean anymore. See, the turn, a decreasing rate of turn, the demands on your lean angle increase with time, right? The more you go through the turn on the same trajectory, or just same general line, the more the turn says, I want more, lean more, and you just can't lean enough if you're just trying to do a single apex, right? This does not work, right? So what you want to do is more like, you see a line like this where you kind of do your curve here, right? And you're going through the turn, and then you do another one here. And then this is a nice line to where, see the way that the second apex here, right? You do a lean, but by this point, your turn is very minimal, right? So what does that mean? Power. You're able to get on the gas much faster. At this point right here, at this point, you are ready to just twist that throttle and just blast out of this turn, right? if you look at this other line here where you kind of go through here and do a very aggressive lean here at one point, and then another here, and then you're able to get on the gas very fast. But the bottom line is you're able to end up pointing your bike to the exit of the turn at the end of the turn here, as opposed to not doing the proper technique, and at the end of the turn you end up pointing off the road, which is not the place you want to be. Anyway, so hopefully this video was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions, please post them below. Please share any stories that you have. Have you ever been in a turn where you were unable to go through the turn? And guys, give the video a like if you appreciate it. Click on the like button. So let me know if you've ever had any turns where you ran off the road, where you got really, maybe you didn't run off the road, but you thought you would and you freaked out, and just share your cornering stories. Good to see you, Era R. So just comment below and let me know what your stories are with going through turns where either you crashed or you felt like you almost crashed. Really appreciate that. Anyway, this is your Fast Life Motorcycle channel, the most awesome motorcycle channel in the universe. Yay, yay. Everybody ride safe and have an awesome weekend. Until the next episode, this is your Fast Life Motorcycle channel. Yeah. And we're out.